This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
And welcome back to the program. Sterling Fox with you, joined in studio by Dr. Jan Venter from Falls Creek Medical Center in Vancouver, where, well, you're a family physician down there, but they have this program at Falls Creek called Executive Healthcare. It would suggest not a lot of kids involved in that particular part of the practice. Tell us about Executive Healthcare. What is that?
So the premise is that it's better to maintain good health than to regain it once it's lost. So what we do is we do a 4-hour intensive, unhurried, but intensive, personalized plan for executives. And these could be small business leaders to big corporate executives, to people who have to do it for insurance. And we try and dig as deep as we can, as deep as the person want to go, into how healthy they are at that current stage.
Okay.
And more importantly, what can I do to change it? So we spend 4 hours.
I'm just sitting here trying to imagine the last time I had 4 hours with a doctor. I don't think I ever have, and if I did, I would have been unconscious and in a surgical setting somewhere. I can't imagine 4 hours with a doctor. That's a almost unheard of luxury, isn't it?
It is an absolute luxury, and I must say I'm a big believer in the patient engagement. I'm a big believer in patient-centric healthcare, and as you can hear of the name centric, our mothership in Toronto is exactly what our goal is at Falls Creek and Centric Healthcare. So we have the luxury of spending as much time as somebody needs.
Right.
Typical, I know the figures are anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes that GPs nowadays have.
That's right. It's about right.
To spend. So the 4 hours is fantastic. We can do a really focused history. We usually find out what's the biggest concerns that somebody has, and whether it's one concern or 10 concerns, we can go through all that, list that, and then do a very good focused medical exam. So for men, it's usually check a lot of the plumbing a little bit.
Right.
For women, we check all the stuff that needs to be done every year, and then we do some specific targeted blood test, and for everybody it's different. Some people want to be focused more a bit on heart health. Somebody want to be more focused on preventing cancer. Some people just want to keep their weight under control.
Right.
Some people want to have something worrisome that they want to that's been undiagnosed, really go deeper and deeper.
Quick question for you here. Suppose you have, and I'm sure this has happened to you probably many, many times with this executive health thing, a business professional comes to you to Falls Creek for the big checkup and the big 4-hour face-to-face. This person is in charge of a mega billion-dollar corporation, so busy and so stressed out, so lacking in personal time as to have found 4 hours with you is an accomplishment in the first place, because those windows of opportunity don't exist in this stressed out person's life. So the person comes to you and says, "Doc, I feel pretty good, but I'm a little busy. I'm feeling a little stressed, to be honest with you." What do you do for somebody like that who leads that kind of supercharged lifestyle out of necessity? They're in charge. But at the same time, they're also human and subject to the same frailties as the rest of us. So how does a supercharged executive, how do you guide a person to good health with that kind of workload?
So that's a great question, because a lot of executives are stressed to the max.
You bet. I got a couple of them around here I'd like to send your way too, I'll tell you.
So at least 70% of health problems, we believe, has stress as an underlying issue.
Right.
And one of the first things to do in stress is, of course, to identify the stressors. So where the stress coming from, and what is our perception to that? So what we do at Falls Creek is we do a really good comprehensive stress analysis.
Okay.
Including some specific blood work. We will look at the adrenal glands, we look at the cortisol hormones, as well as the reproductive hormones. So for men, testosterone, and women, progesterone, DHEA, and estrogen. And there are ways to see what your value should be for your age. And if you're not, you have to ask the questions, why? What's going on here? And if it's because you're flying to China every week on a business trip, you might have to say maybe one of the ones you can maybe do a teleconference.
Exactly.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So the idea, though, is that for every situation and stress level, there is a management strategy. It's just that not many people actually glom on to the right strategy in a lot of cases, thus all of those stress-related health problems, right?
Correct. And a lot of the things that I teach my executives, I have quite a bit that I usually focus when we do our follow-up discussion of the results. I usually make a lot of time on the subject of stress resilience. Somebody who comes to my office say they're not stressed are usually speaking untruths.
Ah, I see.
To make it...
The baloney meter goes red
Correct.
Instantly, right?
Because in this modern age, we all stress to bits, whether it's time pressure, whether it's money, whether it's government changes. Stress is among us, and some of us are better at shrugging it off, and some of us, it's deep inside our molecules,
It just
changes
eats
our
us
chemistry,
up alive, doesn't it?
messes up our sleep, messes up our relationships. So one of the big things I teach in our executive health program and in our family medicine program teaches about how you can be more stress resilient. And one of the biggest factors is sleep.
Okay.
We do know that 8 hours of sleep is what's appropriate, not 4 hours, not 5 hours with a few naps. And the fascinating things about sleep is that recent research has shown that during sleep is when your brain goes onto its maintenance phase. That's when your brain starts pumping away all the bad chemicals and proteins and bad stuff you ate during the day. That's when it pumps it all itself out.
So this is, and this, by the way, is very just a useful little bit of information about sleep. But I have to tell you the story behind it. I was describing to Dr. Venter my typical daily routine, because I do the morning show and I'm up at 4 o'clock, and then we do shows like this later in the day and on the weekends, and I sleep a little bit in the afternoon, and then I try to stay up at least late enough to see what the big people are watching on TV so I can talk about it on the radio the next day. And I average probably 6.5, 7 hours a night, and the doctor looks me straight in the eye and says, "That's not enough." And I said, "Why?" And then you just went through this explanation. I did not know that. All the stuff we do every day, all the stress-related activities and decision-making we get into, even the exercising, certainly all the eating, the stuff we breathe in, all of that, all of those toxins that we absorb into our body every day are usually every day also discharged. But the part of the discharging that we're more familiar with, we call a bathroom break. But the brain also, in its own way, does the same thing. During sleep, the brain also discharges all of these bad things we've introduced into our body all day, and it needs 8 hours a day to do the proper full discharge. So I'm getting a look here, boy, I'll tell you. But if you shortchange your 8 hours, really you're shortchanging yourself, because you're not giving your brain enough time on a daily basis to do precisely what it's supposed to do, right?
Correct. Recent research, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, showed that if you sleep 6 hours or less, 4 times the amount of colds that you get normally. So direct effect on the immune system. So just think with flu season upon us.
Right, yeah.
How many times you get cold and flu. So by just adding an extra hour to your sleep, maybe saying no to your tablet, saying no to the TV at 10,
right,
and going to bed can actually add years to your life and make your immune system stronger.
So simply the act of sleeping, like we learned when we were in grade school, 8 hours a night, boys and girls, is what you still need no matter how old or young you are, because your brain needs to do that discharge routine every night. Back to the executive healthcare for a few moments, because when we're talking about stressed out business people, one of the medical conditions, Doc, that they seem to be most susceptible to is heart attack.
Correct.
They get all cranked up and worked up, and they just conduct themselves at this highest level of imaginable activity, and sooner or later their heart just gives out. It can't keep up with that pace. So obviously part of your executive care program would be heart or cardiac focused activities.
Correct. So every single executive gets a full cardiac workup, including a stress EKG, which is where you run on a treadmill, and we monitor the brain. We monitor the heart's electrical activity. See
Okay.
if there's any changes that shows that there's lack of blood flow, meaning there's blockage in the plumbing. We also watch the blood pressure. New focus is on trying to get the blood pressure as low as 120/80, as long as you're not dizzy.
Is that still is that the number that we should all be shooting
This
for?
is brand new as of 3 weeks ago. The American Cardiology Association recommending numbers of 120/80.
Interesting.
When I started medical school, they said it's 100 plus your age. So if you're 60, 160, don't worry about it.
Oh.
With research and our experience over the years, we've now seen that that was completely wrong, and we can indeed see much better protection of our brain and our heart if we keep closer to 120/80.
Now, is that for men and women equally?
For men and women equally.
Okay.
And it's very important to specifically to protect the heart and the brain. The other part of the executive health is we do a cardiac protection plan, where it's an extra hour that we add in, and we do a very fast CT scan. It does 64 slices through the heart, and what we measure is buildup of plaque in the heart, looking like calcium deposits.
Oh, okay.
And you get a number, a nice number you can play with. Number you want to have is 0, so 0 plaque, 0 calcium deposits.
Okay.
If it's higher than 400, you've got a problem, and you should make some amends, some lifestyle changes, maybe watching your blood pressure, maybe watching what you eat. And we also have easy access to some of the best cardiologists in town.
I want to talk about women's health care. We'll do that with the Women's Wellness Center issues in just a second. But just before we go to break, a quick question. Back to that super stressed out business executive. Just, a mile a minute pace of life, surrounded by people who just take orders and do all of that sort of thing. But the guy is in reasonably good physical shape. So, but, with the stressful lifestyle and all that. So is that person more likely to have a heart attack than a person of the same exact age whose stress level is less than half, but who is overweight and unhealthy? Which of the two is the more likely candidate for a cardiac incident?
So it's a trick question, because they can both be equally vulnerable. So what I do is I dive really deeply into the underlying factors, because that stressed out businessman might just be stressed at work, and on maybe takes a Monday off.
Right,
Typically, Mondays are our biggest, where we see the most myocardial infarctions or heart attacks.
Interesting.
So the typical 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, opening of the stock exchange, plummeting of the market, but it's where we see the peaks or spikes of cortisol. And cortisol, although a very important part of the body, you don't want to see high spikes like a roller coaster.
Right, okay.
Lack of a better word, you get basically thickening of the artery, you get clots. And if there's already blockages, so that's when it happens. Whereas the overweight businessman, or the overweight person of the same age,
Who's in dreadful physical shape,
might have some good genetics on his side.
Right,
So,
right.
So really the important thing is trying to dive deeply into all the underlying factors, whether it's genetics, the environment, the lifestyle, the sleep, looking and see how many donuts he eats, what he doesn't tell you, and then following the chemistry and see what are the real world values of heart health.
Quick question, and then the break. Is it still recommended for every British Columbian that he or she sees a doctor once per year?
It's highly recommended because, like I said before, it's better to maintain good health. And how do you know if you're in good health if you don't see a medical professional?
And at what age should that become an imperative? Okay, I'm over 40 now, I'm over 50 now, I'm over 60 now. I better get to the doctor once a year from now on. What's that magic age?
I think it's age specific, but I would start at 40 for male and female. Female, we start spending more time with breast health,
Sure.
and in male prostate health. But certainly if you under 40 and there's a high genetic disease in the family, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack, so somebody with a family disease that started in their 50s or 60s, I would start early. I would start at 30. I've had kids at 10 starting to check their cholesterol.
Right.
So it's very, very important to start at an early age if there's a genetic disease as well in the family.
Never too late to begin the practice of the annual medical checkup, says Dr. Jan Venter from Falls Creek Healthcare Center. By the way, you want to check out the website while we take a quick break, just slide over to the computer and pull up fallscreekhealthcare.com and have a look, and we'll be back right after this.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.